2020 was a wild year. A lot of stuff happened both in real life and in Counter-Strike. But do you remember everything? Let's do a quick recap. What's up, ProGuides family? I'm Cody, and today we'll be looking back at what everything 2020 brought us, from the awesome moments to the sucky moments and everything in between. Let's see what's in your memory.
The year started off in January, and that was when Complexity made their debut. At the end of 2019, we had the famous Juggernaut tweet from the Complexity CEO stating he had enough of losing and that he was going to build a real Juggernaut team. And to be honest, he did that better than most of us expected when we first saw the roster. The team ended in 11th spot of the year, and they even managed to win a tournament here and there. Sure, they weren't the top team like Jason Light might have hoped they would, but they were definitely strong top 10 contenders. That's not the only roster move that happened though. No. January was a big month for new rosters. Na'Vi also replaced Guardian with Perfecto, and on top of that, the historical Ninjas in Pajamas player, Forrest, left NIP after playing for them since 2012. He did that to reunite with his old teammates over on Dignitas, and Nock would replace him on the new NIP roster. It's definitely a very historical moment, especially after the long history that Forrest had with the Ninjas. Oh, it is so sad to see you go, but be well, brother. The top 3 teams for January remained pretty much unchanged compared to the end of 2019. Astralis on top, followed by Mouse, followed by Team Liquid. But before we tell you about what happened in February, spoiler alert, Corona happened, we first got to cover our question of the day. Today's question being, what was the most memorable moment of 2020 Counter-Strike for you? For me, it definitely was when all the coaches got banned. I really didn't expect so many coaches to have cheated like that, and it really caught me by surprise. What about you though? What do you remember the most? In February, Cloud9 released Mixwell. He was already inactive on the roster, and he hadn't played any officials for a long time. But it's funny to think that he went to Valorant soon after, and right now, he's actually pretty much dominating the EU scene over there in G2. Nonetheless, though Cloud9 decided not to extend his contracts and instead decided to buy the ATK roster, which also was a bit disappointing. Additionally, it was February that the ESL Pro League announced it would become a franchise league. Previously, you could qualify through the ESEA League system if you did really well in MDL. But after this announcement, the only way you get in was if you were one of the partner teams. A bit sad for a lot of aspiring pro players, but I also understand the ESL needs to make money. They gotta make that guap, dude. And as you may remember, it's also when Corona happened, which resulted in IEM Katowice announcing that they would hold their tournament without a live audience. It would be the first of many. The top 3 teams yet again remained unchanged. Astralis as the #1 spot, then Mouse, then Liquid. Man, these guys are holding it down. In March, Na'Vi won their first tournament with their new lineup, and that was at Katowice 2020. The team performed great, and when Simple was interviewed after the game, he talked about how hopeful he was about the team's future and how this new Na'Vi is more mechanically skilled and more in touch with each other. He believed that Na'Vi had a really good chance at winning lots more tournaments this year. Unfortunately for him though, it didn't really turn out that way. After tournaments moved to the online ERA, Na'Vi was not able to win any more tournaments, at least not in 2020. That is unless you count a charity event where there were games of only 12 rounds on each side, instead of the regular 15. It was also in March that a gameplay trailer for Valorant was released and the closed beta was announced. It was then that a lot of Tier 2 players were rumored to leave the scene in pursuit of a career in Valorant. One of the first to leave was Swag, the young CSGO prodigy that was banned for competing in majors due to the match-fixing scandal back in the iBuy Power days. He was signed by T1 and is now a known figure in the Valorant scene. On top of that, there were also some disappointing news for the relatively new Team OG, since they failed to qualify for the major. Fortunately for them though, said major was postponed to November weeks later, and qualifications would have to be redone. Spoiler alert though, the major was not able to be played in November, either for, obvious reasons. The top teams for March were Na'Vi, Astralis, and G2, in that order. Oh snap, no more Liquid, huh? They must have evaporated. Got him. In April, a lot of news also happened. First of all, the Valorant closed beta started, and more players started leaving Counter-Strike because of it. One of them was Wardell, and it seemed like T1, after the signing of Swag, were looking to include more I-Buy Power players as they signed AZK. Over in EU, Fnatic was able to win Pro League Season 11, and with that they secured the #1 team spot, followed by Na'Vi and Astralis. Oh, and Jampy sued Valve for not allowing him to play in majors due to the fact that an account he used to own was linked in a VAC ban. Jampy claimed it was a friend that got him that cheating ban, but even if it was him, he was 14 at the time, so it's a bit rough to see a career go like that. Young and reckless. Ooh, I remember those days. In May, the month starts off with Astralis signing Juggy as the 7th. Having already announced ES3 tag as the 6th earlier, even though he would only be signed in July. At first, the community was quite confused as to why this happened, but later it became pretty obvious as both Glaive and XYP9X took a temporary leave from the roster. All in all, though, it was a sad month for Counter-Strike as the major was supposed to be happening, but due to Corona, it obviously didn't. Instead of the major being there, though, there were Road to Rio tournaments so that you could qualify for the major then set in November. Nonetheless, the top 3 teams were Astralis, Na'Vi, and Fnatic. In June, a lot happened as well. It all started with Astralis announcing that they were aiming to go for a 10-man roster. They had already collected 7 at that point. They were looking to sign Bubsky, and they already had played with Snappy as a stand-in. They mentioned how having a roster with more players meant a greater overall well-being for the players, especially considering mental health and burnout. Even though the idea wasn't bad, it didn't really go through, as Astralis quickly sold ES3 tag to Cloud9 and let Juggy's contract expire. Either way, June was a great month for Counter-Strike. Valve seemed to be shook up by the release of Valorant, and they even added an update that bettered the visibility of all player models. Finally, there was some drama because Leaf was accused of cheating by Mibber icon Fallen. The Chaos youngster was then thrown under a barrage of angry Mibber fans, even though there was no solid proof he was guilty of anything. That is quite the bummer. And that brings us to July. In July, the player break started, but before it did, Big managed to snag the final Tier 1 tournament before it, ultimately making them place as the #1 team for the month. Additionally, an anti-cheat update called Trusted Mode was shipped out, and the community weren't really big fans of it. It hindered streamers and normal players, but cheaters got around it fairly quickly. Something else that's pretty cool is that a StatTrak M4A4 Howl with 4 I-Buy Power Holos was sold for $130, which is honestly insane. The month ends with Big being in the #1 spot, followed by Vitality and EG. In August, the Fracture case got released, but perhaps more importantly, the coaching bug scandal first came to light. Coaches would be able to have vision from almost any spot they chose on the map, and it would almost be a bit of a wall hack. This resulted in Heroic coach Hunden, Mibber coach Dead, and Hard Legion coach Zoner all getting suspended for using the bug. It was a big shock to the community, but there are more bans to come. The first tournament of the month, that being DreamHack, was again won by Big, showing they were still in form, and Cologne EU was won by Heroic, even without using the coaching bug, even though the timing of their coach getting banned was really unfortunate. Over in NA, the Evil Geniuses beat their own version of Cologne as they win Cologne North America. The month ends with Vitality in first because they played well in both tournaments, Heroic second because they won Cologne EU, EG third because of Cologne NA, and Big fourth due to winning DreamHack but bombing out of Cologne early. And fifth place, yo baby mama, cause she a beast, dude, she a beast. September starts off with ex-Na'Vi coach accusing Valve of hiding from the community that Flusha used to cheat to save their reputation. Even though this is of course a gigantic claim, he provides absolutely zero evidence, which is quite ironic because when the Esports Integrity Commission released a list of all the 37 coaches that were banned from using the previously mentioned coaching exploit, Sterix actually was one of them. Luckily, he responded accordingly with this legendary tweet. To be honest, I don't remember what I was using it. Seems like I did. Well, nothing to say on my side. Either way though, 37 coaches being banned was a really big deal for Counter-Strike as an esport, and it made a lot of people question the integrity of pros and teams alike. In other news though, we have Furia starting to look really scary as they win Pro League North America. They have been doing really well against the other North American competition even before that, but this time around, they really went and showed that they're looking to compete with the likes of Liquid and EG. Also, Cloud9 announces they're rebuilding their team again with Henry G as the team manager. The team would be called the Colossus, and Henry G promises that his squad will not disappoint and it will be serious top team contenders. It was also rumored that he'd pick up on an all-UK CS team, which was really exciting for the UK scene. It didn't end up happening though. In October, Heroic is doing really good yet again, showing their victory runs were not a fluke as they placed first in DreamHack Open Fall as well. Tessis also just does this. So yeah, that's something. Cloud9 also complete their roster with ES3 tag, meaning their final roster consists of Woxic, Alex, Mezzi, Floppy, and of course, ES3 tag himself. The month ended with Heroic first, Astralis second, and Vitality in third. I guess Liquid's still in that gaseous state. Maybe they went up to Plasma, who knows? In November, we finally got the long-awaited Cloud9 debut, with it being the most expensive CSGO team ever, at least as far as we know, and the fact that Henry G has been hyping it up for months now, the expectations were high. Long story short though, Henry G lied to us. Cloud9 did alright, I guess, but it definitely wasn't looking like 2018 Astralis. In fact, I take it back, they didn't do alright, they got 2-0'd by both OG and Virtus Pro, and both of those teams didn't even look scary compared to the top competition that Cloud9 was promised to be. Sure, some maps were pretty close, but the team definitely did disappoint. Maybe we should give them some more time though. Luckily for them, Vitality had had more success. The team already managed to place in a lot of finals throughout the year, but in November, they were finally able to win their first event of the year. In fact, they won both in the same month. And because of that, they managed to end the month in a gloriful #1 spot, followed by Heroic and Navi. Boom, boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, boom. That brings us to December. In December, the player break started again, but not before EU and NA finally managed to reunite once again in the IEM Global Challenge. This was the first tournament in over half a year where the tournament wasn't split into 2 regions, and it was great. We got another Astralis vs Team Liquid final like the good old days, and as you'd expect if you watched any of the previous Team Liquid vs Astralis finals, Astralis was able to easily clean up the Liquid boys and win the tournament. After the final, Twist announced that he was leaving the roster, which was double sad news for Liquid fans, and as of now, it's still unknown where he's going to go. Maybe he's gonna turn into a solid player. Get it? Because first he was Liquid, then he was Gas, then he was Plasma, now he's solid. Some people say he's going to Valorant, but personally, I just hope he finds himself a strong EU team to compete in. The guy is a monster, and I don't want Valorant to take any of our Tier 1 talent. Oh, and I almost forgot. Also, the Operation Broken Fang got released. And needless to say, it is pretty sick.
Yeah, it wasn't a great year for Counter-Strike, but it was an interesting one. The most important thing we learned is that we should be nice to each other. So if you'd like to be nice to us, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And while you're at it, go to ProGuides.com. We've got some great courses and coaching that will help you unlock your full potential. That being said, I wish you the best of luck. Peace out, y'all.